Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. How are you doing this week, Stuart?
Hey there. Doing okay.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that hard. This week, no, I just came off a really intense job that hopefully I'll get around to talking about it on the normal YouTube channel. There's a fun little anecdote. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to hear that. I've got a wedding in Boston coming up. I leave tomorrow for the airport. And then, just a lot of... Well, I guess by the time this airs,
They'll be over.
I will be back from Boston. But no, it's just busy week.
We are busy, but not too busy to record a podcast. So.
Not too busy. But one of the things that I've been doing to waste time and procrastinate is scroll the internet, because of course I have. And I came across this article, and we're going to talk about it. So this article is an F-Stoppers article called "My Camera's Not Good Enough and 7 Other Stupid Things Photographers Say." It should actually be 8 stupid things photographers say, but misleading, weird titles. So we're going to go through this list of 8 things and see if we agree or do not agree.
Sounds good.
Maybe I'll put in some fun sound effects or something if we agree. I don't know.
Like or dislike.
Yeah. So we're going to start. My camera is not good enough.
As in... I agree that's a stupid thing to say.
That is a stupid thing to say. And it is something that I hear so often. My fun anecdote about that is literally the first wedding I ever shot was with a Canon Rebel XSI. If you are not familiar, Google it. It was a very crappy camera. The quality, if you put it to ISO 800, just turned to garbage. 1600, completely unusable, and 1600 was its cap. It was 12 megapixels. It was slow as all hell to actually shoot and record. It was like 3 frames a second. It's an objectively terrible camera, and that's the one that I started on. Anyway, so I shot my very first wedding on that camera, and one of the bridesmaids was so impressed with one of the photos that I showed her on the back of the camera. She's like, "Ooh, that's so fancy. What are you shooting with?" I was like, "Oh, it's a Canon XSI." She's like, "Really? Because that's the same one I have, and it's not a good camera."
But it is.
But what can you do with it?
Yeah, exactly. Unless, so your camera likely is capable of doing what you need it to do. Like if it's made within the past, 20 years, it's likely able to do.
Let's lower that to like 8.
All right.
If you lower that because the XSI was 10 years ago.
Okay.
If you lower it to the last 5 to 8 years, any camera in that time frame is good enough.
All right. Yeah. So, yes, I was being hyperbolic, but if your camera was even remotely recent in technology terms, it is capable of doing what you needed to do. And so saying my camera's not good enough tends to mean I'm not good enough, if you're reading between the lines. So yeah, the answer could be a variety of different things, but likely your camera can do what you need it to do.
That is definitely a stupid thing to say, though, in most circumstances, because what that leads to is if I get a better camera, I will be a better photographer, which is not true. And then your bubble will be burst when you do get that camera and you are not better.
Exactly. Number 2, I need higher resolution.
Yes, you do. No, I'm kidding.
Don't we all? I would love higher resolution. Do I need it? Probably not.
Yeah. So funny anecdote for this one. Oh my God, the time is flying away. Is 2021 the new 2020? Like, what is just happening to this year?
I think 2020 and 2021 are both a wash.
I think they have just merged into one 19-month mega year or something. Anyway, no. So in December, I actually just bought a high resolution camera because yes, I wanted more resolution to print stuff. But again, unless you are printing wall size posters or billboards or an advertisement that's going to go on the side of a bus, probably don't need more resolution. This is a bit of trivia that's been in one of our previous podcasts. But do you know what the camera resolution was for the very first digital camera that shot a cover of Vogue magazine?
I know we've said this before, and I can't remember, but probably lower than you would expect. It's my answer.
3 megapixels.
3 megapixels. Okay. Yeah.
There you go. So, basically I got a steal of a deal on a high resolution camera that was being discontinued. So I'm like, yeah, I do want the higher resolution, but 9 times out of 10, you don't need it. Higher resolution is just going to show more detail and more flaws. And if you're a bad photographer, you don't want that. You want your 3 megapixel potato until you know what you're doing with it.
Yeah. If you really truly need high resolution, you will know. Like, you will definitely know. This is just a want. But
yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Number 3, I can't do macro because I don't have a macro lens. No. Bum bum ba-dum. Incorrect.
Yeah. You can do macro if you don't have a macro lens, but this is one that
you need a macro lens.
You do really need a macro lens. Yes,
so,
people will tell you online you can flip your lens around, or you can add rings or whatever,
or an extension tube, or you just have one of those high resolution ones and like crop it. Like, no. There was one wedding I shot where I forgot my macro lens at home, and when it came to the ring shot, I went, oh no, and I like tried to make it work, but the photo's not good. Yeah, and it's certainly not macro.
Yeah, you can try to approximate macro, and I would say that the best thing that I've seen is extension tubes. In my experience, I've tried all of these different ones, but there is nothing to really replace a true macro lens, especially something specialized like our favorite lens, the Laowa probe lens. You will not get any there's no approximating that look.
No.
That is the only way to get that look.
Although I will try with my new smartphone in the next couple of weeks. But no, the other macro lens that is much more affordable and accessible and is pretty standard for most camera brands is the 100mm macro. I believe on Canon it's 105, or Nikon it's 105, Canon is 100, but like that close enough ish. I got mine for $350 full retail. Like, it's a very good but accessible lens, and like, you need a macro lens.
Yep.
Like, there is no comparison. If you shoot macro, you need a macro lens.
But what about telephotos that have a macro mode? Does that count?
No, not at all. Not at all. Those are what it really comes down to is minimum focus distance. If you can't get close enough to the thing to make it macro, it's not going to be macro. I think Laowa has some lenses that do qualify. Like they have that one that I saw a YouTube video where the thumbnail was a dude holding a quarter. Like, do you remember that? Like, it's like a 12mm wide angle architecture lens, but they're like actually the minimum focus distance is stupid small.
But that's Laowa. I mean, they make the probe. Of course, they're going to have some weird edge case.
Of course they will.
Laowa is weird edge
But again, that is a macro lens of like, it was designed for architecture to be a rectilinear wide angle, but it really comes down to, if you do not have a lens that can get the 1:1 at least ratio, it's not macro.
Yep.
Like, that's the definition.
Yep. Exactly.
Like, if it doesn't come from the Champagne region of France, then it's just sparkling narcissism. That's the...
Exactly. All right, number 4. My shots will never look like X's shots. Insert person photographer here. My first question is, why do you want your shots to look like their shots? Wouldn't you want your shots to look like your shots?
Very true.
But, I understand miming another photographer's style if you want to learn how their process is, and when you're first starting out, or if you're trying to learn a new technique, and the easiest way to learn that sometimes is to replicate what somebody has already done. So I can understand that, but this is often a question of taste. Your taste you're in a good position if your taste is always outstripping your ability to make. That's a good place to be, even though it is not satisfying ever. So I understand this. Like, you will if you're doing it right, you will always feel this way, that your work will never be as good as you want it to be, but never look like somebody else's work. Do your own work, and take your own path, and don't worry about other people too much.
I think the other thing to add to that is, like, if you just said, just to throw a name out that everybody knows, Joe McNally, right? If you're like, my work will never look like Joe McNally's work. Joe McNally already has the market cornered on people who want work that looks like Joe McNally. Like, of course, like, it shouldn't look like his, because no one will hire you. Like, they're just gonna go to the source,
You're just a knockoff. Yeah.
So there is something to be said for seeing like an Annie Leibovitz and wanting to impersonate it and draw inspiration, and then kind of I've been watching a lot of Loki recently. Like, you've got that core timeline of the photographer you want to copy, and then it branches off, and that variant branch is this is me and my work. Yeah, it came from and originated from, like, for me personally, really came from like Joe McNally and Dave Hill. But now I have branched off where you cannot look at my work and say, oh, that's a Dave Hill, because it doesn't look the same. But, like, that's where I started.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, but you should aspire to be your own look and brand.
Indeed. Number 5, I can't afford to become a professional. It is expensive.
Yes, it is expensive.
But I feel like one of us should start talking at this point.
But you can be a professional. I will start. You can be a professional with anything, pretty much. Like, a professional is just somebody paying you to do it. So you don't need, like, whatever you would consider. Are you going to tell me that I'm not a professional because I don't shoot with a Sony Alpha 1, even though I really, really want one, and I would love to argue that I'm not a professional without one? No. Like, the GH5 is super old at this point, and that's still, like, the camera that I use most for work. That doesn't mean that the GH5 II that's coming out makes me less a professional, or the GH6 that's going to come out later this year makes me less of a professional. Like, a professional is what you make of it, and if you can convince somebody to pay you for a service, you're a professional. So, yeah,
we talked about this once before.
We did.
We will link that in the notes down below. But no, being a professional, if you have a camera and a lens and know how to do the thing that you're doing, you can conduct yourself in a professional manner and be a professional. Is website hosting expensive? It can be. Is like getting new lenses expensive? It can be. Buying booths at wedding shows, very expensive. There are things that are expensive, and so you might see those as barriers to entry. But if you know people who like you and your work and want to give you money, you can be a professional.
Yeah, you got to work your way up. You're comparing yourself to somebody who is existing in the market, who has potentially a following, who has a client base, who can afford all of these things because they've worked as a professional for some period of time. And if you're just starting out, that seems like, well, I can't possibly get to that level where they are. Well, you can eventually. They started small too, unless they just got given a huge pile of money, which would be great. But yeah, if you're starting out,
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
But yes, unless you got a pile of money, you should expect
allergies
to
this time of year.
Work your way up, and that's how everybody does it. All right, number 6. I only shoot natural light. We did an episode on this.
We did. That is a dumb thing to say. Don't do it. Next one.
Yep.
I mean, I can elaborate for 10 seconds. That is a cop-out. Just, like, learn how to use natural light or learn how to use flash for the times that you need flash. Just stop saying that.
The other thing that I would say is, if you only shoot natural light, you're super limiting yourself. Like, I understand the desire to not want to overcomplicate things, but don't limit yourself. Don't pigeonhole yourself only in one mode of lighting things. You will literally not be able to accomplish certain things because you only shoot natural light. And who wants to limit themselves, right?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And plus, you might just look at your photos and go, oh, I'm not really happy with the quality. Why don't my photos look like that guy? It's probably because that guy doesn't use complete natural light.
Yep. So be happy and don't limit yourself. You deserve better than limiting yourself just to natural light.
Number 7, this lens is rubbish. No, yeah, lenses can be rubbish. That's fine.
It could be.
That's a valid argument. It could be rubbish.
But think about all the people that buy old rubbish lenses just for the look of rubbish. So
that is very true.
Maybe
Those
your
people are
lens
hipsters, and I hate them.
Maybe your lens isn't rubbish. Maybe your lens is aesthetic, as they say.
Vintage.
I really dislike. Side note: I really dislike the use of aesthetic as a noun. Like an aesthetic is something. It's not. You don't say something is aesthetic. That doesn't mean anything.
No.
What does that mean? Aesthetic is a thing. Like that's like saying something is style. Yeah, but what style? What aesthetic? So no,
true.
your old Russian lens is not aesthetic. What aesthetic is it? Old Russian lens.
it's hipstery and vintage. No, so there is it's kind of that, like, if you watch a movie and it's not a good movie, what is it? It's a bad movie, and then you shouldn't watch it. But then there are movies that are so bad they're good again. Like, I feel like with rubbish lenses, of like, there are some lenses that are just bad, but they're not so bad that they're vintage. So no, I actually have one lens where just like the focus is complete garbage and it racks back and forth, and the minimum focus distance is always a lot longer than I think it is, and shooting portraits with it is a pain. But it's like I generally don't own zoom lenses just because I prefer primes, but I just needed a zoom lens to cover a certain range for when I shoot weddings, and it sucks. I don't like it. It's not a kit lens. It's still 2.8 all the way through the zoom range, but I just don't like it, and it is rubbish. Do I use it? Yeah, when I need to.
But I really, really want mirror lenses to not be rubbish so that I don't end up eventually buying some really expensive telephoto lens. But unfortunately, mirror lenses are rubbish always, and I avoid buying one, even though I really want to believe...
I bought one for $20 once.
Okay, for $20 I might buy it.
And I did a comparison. Has this comparison gone up on my channel yet?
I don't know.
I'm gonna write that down, and I'm gonna do a comparison. No, I bought a mirror lens for $20. I have not gotten around to getting rid of it yet. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. It's not great, but I guess I got $20 of use out of it.
Well, I already kind of spoiled it because I said that they are rubbish, but
yeah, they are kind of rubbish. That's true.
But how rubbish are they? You're gonna have to watch the video to find out.
Yeah, there you go. Number 8.
Number 8. I don't like to edit my photos. It feels like cheating.
Oh, can I just hit you in the face with a brick?
No, because then you'd have to edit the wound out of the photo.
Oh yeah, that's more Photoshop. that's that would be cheating.
So cameras, here's a fun thing to think about if you think that editing is cheating. Cameras are not perfect representations of reality, of what the scene actually looks like to your eyes. You can look at a scene, take a picture, look at it how it came out of your camera, and notice immediately all of the differences between how you actually see the scene and how the camera sees the scene.
Yeah.
So if you were to post that picture straight out of the camera, you are already not representing reality. So if you're already not representing reality, why not help it out a little bit? Maybe the editing leads to actually a better representation of reality, closer to what you're looking at. Or maybe forget reality and edit it however you want to create whatever style or look that you like or desire or being paid to do. That's totally fine too.
Absolutely. Yeah, my two knee-jerk reactions to this, left knee would be exactly what you said, of between the dynamic range and, aperture and everything, it's not going to see what you see. That's why HDR and focus stacking and all of these other techniques exist, so we can try and get closer to the reality that we saw. The right knee jerk reaction is, I don't care what it actually looks like, because it always looks worse than I remember it. What I care about is that it looks like what I remember it looked like. And sometimes, let's just take a wedding for example, right? If I'm shooting this beautiful scenic landscape with the wedding couple and I'm so focused on them, I don't notice that someone littered a Coca-Cola can, I'm gonna edit out that can. Is that cheating? Well, if I were there and I noticed it that day and I had walked over and picked up the can and moved it, essentially the exact same thing, but I just cheated. I just changed the environment to get the same end result type thing. The other thing too is like a lot of times when I talk to people, like I don't care what it looks like. I care that the feeling of what you felt while you were there remains intact. So if your sky is just dreary garbage, overcast Seattle weather, and you're shooting in the middle of July because you wanted a summer wedding, you know what? I'm going to put up a backlight with an orange gel to fake your sunset shot and probably do a sky replacement, and we're going to make that happen. So no, it's not cheating. It's very different of I submitted this fish to the scientific journal for, study. That is one kind of photography versus I posted a pretty landscape to my social media page. That's a completely different thing.
Yep. Unless you're shooting for scientific purposes, for research purposes, and this has to be as close to a representation of actual reality as possible. It's art. It's not science. So
I mean, even then, when I shot menus for Taco Bell, they're like, hey, the meat is a little too brown. It needs to just be a little more red. And so I have a taco in my hand and I have the photo on the screen. And I'm literally looking at the lettuce and trying to get the yellow and the green of the lettuce to match. Of like, it's not always accurate. Things happen. So.
Yep. So don't worry about it.
So there you go. That is our breakdown of the 1 + 7, which equals 8. See if you can do math next time correctly, F-stoppers. 8 stupid things photographers should stop saying, and 2 that we completely agree with, so say them all you want. If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.